I'll first show you how to modify your clearance card door. Let's come over to the workspace. Let's find your clearance door, and for this example I'll be working with clearance door version 2. We'll click on it, and in the properties we'll come down to the attribute section. To change the clearance level, all you have to do is click on it and type in a number. So right now I have it set to 1. Let's change it to 3. The same can be done with version 1 of the door. So if we click on it and come down to the attribute section, we can see the clearance level is also level 1. Well, we'll also change this one to level 3. Let's say we want to make a clearance card that could access both of these doors. Let's come down to starter pack, although your clearance card may be somewhere else. Let's click on our clearance card, and all we have to do is change the attribute clearance level. So right now, it's clearance level 3, and it should be able to access both of our doors. Let's try it out. As we can see, it works for both doors. Let's say though, we don't want this clearance card to have access to either of these doors. Let's change the clearance level down to 1. Let's try it out. We can see that we can no longer access this door. Let's try this one. Doesn't work either. Let's say we want to have access to one of these doors, but not the other. Let's do that. So all you have to do is click on one of these doors and modify the clearance level attribute. So let's change this one up to 5. This one is set to 1 already, so let's leave it at 1. Our clearance card has a clearance level of 1, but let's change it to 3. So if we test it out, we should have access to the door on the right, but not the one on the left. So we can access the one on the left, and we can access the one on the right. For those of you who were just interested in the model, that's all you'll need to know. But for those of you who are interested in learning, you can continue watching. For those of you who wanted to learn how the doors work, let's get into it. So let's start off with the version 2, or the proximity prompt door. Let's come over here and open it up. So it looks like a lot, but there really isn't much to this door. Let's start down here. When detector 0 or detector 1 is triggered, which is our proximity prompt, which you can find under these detectors and attachments. Let me make these visible real quick. So here you can see them. So when either of those proximity prompts are triggered, it will call the function validate card, and the players pass through to it. So what this clearance variable does is it looks for the attribute clearance level in the player, and it tries to find it. What this if statement is saying is if the door is not active, which basically is when the door is up or down, but by default it is not active. So when the door is not active and a clearance is found, and when the clearance is greater than or equal to the clearance level of the door. So for this example, the clearance level of the door is 5 right now. So as long as our clearance is greater than 5, it'll open the door. So this basically just disables the proximity prompts. It sets active to true, so the door is open, and it creates a tween. As we can see here, the door is being moved up 8 studs. However, this can be however high you want it to be. By default, the tween takes 2 seconds to open, although you can modify this. I would recommend keeping this at 2 seconds. I found that works best. However, you can change it to whatever you want. The tween then plays, and it waits for the tween to complete, and then it waits the open time of the door. Right now it's set to 0, and I recommend keeping it at that. However, you could change it to whatever you want. This is basically how long the door will stay up for, so let's change it to 2. A new tween is then created, and it moves the door part down 8 studs. It then plays, and it waits for the tween to complete. It then reactivates the proximity prompts, and it sets the door active to false. So it's no longer open. So now let's look at lines 37 and 38. It's pretty simple. All it's doing is setting the action text of the proximity prompts to whatever is over here. So setting it to required clearance level, and then whatever the clearance level of the door is. You could change this text to whatever you want. So let's try it out. Instead of required clearance, let's have you need level, then whatever. So now it says you need level 5, and we didn't change the other one, it stays required clearance level 5. Now let me show you how this automatic detecting door works. It's fundamentally the same as the proximity prompt door, however it has some minor tweaks. Let's open it up. So as you can see, it looks fairly similar, the only difference is really down here. And this line of code in particular. So what this is saying is when the detector, which is this part right here, let me show you that. When this is touched by keycard, or by anything really, it fires this function validate card, and right here, this line is very important. What it does is it looks for the player and it tries to get the attribute clearance level from that player. So if the clearance level is found, then this is the same if statement. So if the door's not active and there's a clearance is found, and the clearance is greater than the clearance level attribute of the model, then it basically does the same thing. It opens the door, it waits the open time, and it closes the door. So for those of you who are interested in how the clearance card works, let's take a look at that. So let's open it up, and you can see there really isn't a lot here. So let's start down here. When the tool is equipped, it calls the function add attribute, and all this does is it sets the player's attribute clearance level to whatever the clearance level of the tool is. So for this example, we'd have when the tool is activated, it will set the player's clearance level to 3. Then when the tool is unequipped, it'll call the function remove attribute, and it'll set the player's clearance level back down to 0. So the same kind of happens up here. If a clearance level attribute is not found in the player, then it'll set the attribute to 0. And when a player first joins, they won't have a clearance level attribute, so this is why this is needed. So it can set it back down to 0, and there won't be any errors with the doors. So let's say you want to modify what your clearance card looks like. Let's do that right now. So let's move this to workspace, and as you can see, it's kind of just a red block right now. So let's make a new clearance card. Let's make something a little more snazzy. So let me find something real quick. So I found this one, and let's just set this up. So what we're gonna want to do is weld all these parts together. So let's create a weld, and I'm in the model page or tab right now. And all I'm going to do is create a weld between that part, create a weld between that part, and then this top part, I'll create a weld between that part as well. And then we're also going to want to make sure that all these parts aren't anchored, or else they won't function right when we make them into a tool. Alright, so now that's good. Let's make this into a tool now. Let's insert object, and we'll do a tool. All we're going to want to do is just move these into here, into the tool that we created. Or we can delete the old model. You don't have to do that, but it keeps everything nice and clean. So now that that's in there, what we're going to want to do is add a new attribute to this tool. And we're going to make the type to number. Now you're going to have to name this attribute clearance level. So like so. Clearance level, save, and we're going to set this one to 5. And then you can name this tool whatever you want. So I'll name it cool card, because it's a cool card. Before you test this out, you're going to want to take the clearance handler from another clearance card, and you're going to want to paste it into your new clearance card. So here we go. You don't have to edit anything in the script. As long as you added your attribute to this tool, you should be fine. So let's test it out now. Let's move this into starter pack, and we'll also move the other one into starter pack. Why not? Test it out, and we have our cool card. Oh shoot, I forgot to add a handle to our cool card. So we're gonna want to add, you can pick any part you want, or you can create a new one. We're just gonna want to name one of these handle. and we'll try this again. There we go. As you can see, it looks a little different. Now, I don't have a very good view on it, but you can always edit the rotation or the orientation of the handle. So let's test it out. Seems to work fine here, and it works fine here. If you found this tutorial helpful or even interesting, then subscription and a like is always appreciated. If you want to pick up this model for yourself, you can check the description below. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment.